Welcome, Superboy fans, to the Superboy Legacy Podcast, Episode 6. I'm your host, Sam Rizzo, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Tom Gallagher. Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. This
Yeah,
is another special episode.
it's been a while since I've been on here. So I just want to say a quick shout out. Thank you to Chris Jacobson, our resident Superboy expert, fact checker, for stepping in and doing those commentaries with you, Tom. And Tom, thank you for, doing those commentaries so the fans could have some content, as I was busy with my brother's wedding and I had work I had to do. So I just want to say thank you to both of you guys for continuing to create awesome content for our fans to listen to. So thank you.
My pleasure. More than glad to do it.
Thank you. Well, today we are going to talk about, we're going to delve back into our segment that everybody really enjoyed the first time we did it, the Superboy Writers Room, where we continue the series with season 5, our fan fiction season 5. And Tom, that first episode you did was amazing, continuing the story where we left off. It kind of shifted a little bit into the future. We didn't pick up exactly where the show left off, but
No. As I said then, it would have been way too easy just to pick it up in the car after Lana stabs Clark in the butt with the needle.
Right. And I think there was little subtle hints throughout that last season, like in Who is Superboy, that she knew, I think. And when we eventually talk to Stacey Hydick, we could talk to her about her character arc and where she thought Lana ended up at the end of the series. Did she know? Did she not know? Was she playing it like she did know the entire time? Which I think is what she was doing. If you look at her character arc throughout the 4 seasons. But yeah, I love how you continued the series, but you progressed everybody forward a little bit, which was great.
Well, there's going to be a little bit more of that today.
That's a great tease. Great tease. So we're going to talk. Tom's going to pitch episode 2. Do you have a title for episode 2?
Yeah, it's season 5, episode 2, For the Love of Lex.
For the Love of Lex. Ooh. Why do I feel like Darla is going to factor into this episode?
Yeah. Originally, the episode title was For the Good of Lex.
For the Good of Lex?
Yeah, but then I realized that there was something missing, and what I decided it was I just really wanted to bring back Darla, even if it's for the last time, although it may not be for the last time.
Interesting.
But once it was about Darla a little bit more, the title just changed immediately, and I liked the idea of the title, like For the Love of God, For the Love of Lex. It's just so yeah.
Well, you want to start off with your teaser for the episode, and we'll delve right into your pitch. Let's do it.
Well, I might as well just start reading from my pitch anyway, because there's a pre-title screen, like title sequence teaser anyway. But yeah, as there was before, there's a few things that are going to be hinted at in this episode that are going to pay off in later episodes. Like I don't like when TV shows introduce a character in the episode that it's all going to be resolved in. I like if they sort of lay the groundwork for it a little bit in advance.
So kind of like what Smallville did, or like Star Trek: The Next Generation, or like Star Trek: The Next Generation. They were self-contained episodes. Even Superboy the series, they were self-contained episodes.
Yeah, but I think as we progress and move to the 42-minute format, and there's going to be an overarching story. I want to change things up a little bit. It's also like, Batman the Animated Series was self-contained episodes.
Right.
But they still introduced Harvey Dent a few episodes before he became Two-Face. And that's kind of a similar idea to what I want to do with this. Like, this is still going to be a self-contained episode. Like, you don't have to see the previous one to totally get it, although it helps.
Yeah.
But,
you don't have to do any of your homework to get into this episode. So
yeah, it's still a complete story, and it sets up other stories, which is always fun. But Superboy did it in the past. Like, you had the chunk of kryptonite falling down the drain at the end of Kryptonite Kills, and then
that's right.
That's the same chunk that's used in Metallo in season 2. Like, it's been done before, like in the show, so it's not unprecedented.
they took little story threads from certain episodes and they carried it into other episodes, but,
Yeah,
there wasn't, like, an overarching
no,
storyline that just carried through each season.
no. But
Um,
that's something that's being introduced now.
well,
That
it's
yeah,
modern television storytelling. That's what
yeah,
we're doing with the new season 5 of The Adventures of Superboy, so
yeah. And it's one thing that Superboy did well was evolve with the times. So
exactly,
I'm just
exactly.
continuing that trend. I mean, Lois and Clark kind of had an overarching storyline with the whole Lex Luthor, like Superman trying to prove Lex Luthor is the monster that he is, and all
Mhm.
that stuff. So that's obviously not happening in this, because considering Lex has already been around for 4 seasons. But
Right, right. And
so I'm changing it for something else.
well, we got to see Lex from a senior college student all the way to the evil scientist Lex from the
Mm,
Silver Age of the comics. So that was interesting that I don't think any other Superman show has done other than Smallville, showing
yeah.
him from, very innocent, trying to follow his father's footsteps, and then unknowingly, well, knowingly or unknowingly, as if you talk to some fans, him just becoming evil because he
Mm,
turned out like his father. So,
yeah.
which is what he thought. He thought he was doing the right thing. That's what the best villains are, the villains that always think they're doing the right thing, but
Yeah.
they're not.
It's like
No,
there's a famous phrase like the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
good intentions. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's so true though. It's so
it
true.
is. And
So
that's why he's such a tragic character in Smallville. But we're not here to talk about Smallville
right,
anyway.
right. Let's do your episode, season 5, episode 2, For the Love of Lex. Take it away, Tom.
Okay. Interior, Fortress of Solitude. Clark is talking to Jor-El's hologram. Jor-El says, I tried to convince him, Cal, but he wouldn't listen. He got it into his head that the council was so corrupt they wouldn't listen to reason. Superboy asks, so what happened? He killed the council, all of them. He said they failed to save Krypton, that they didn't want to save it, that protecting their image in the eyes of the people was more important to them than saving our species. Superboy says, I don't know what to say. And Jor-El says, neither did I. But you, Cal, maybe you can succeed where I failed. Promise me, Cal, even if you are sure, absolutely certain that someone cannot be saved, you'll try and you'll keep trying. Don't let my mistakes be your own. I wish I had made him see. I wish I'd made him believe. Maybe things would have been different. Maybe in this moment I could embrace you in my arms. Superboy says, I promise, Father, I'll never stop trying. Cut to interior, the Judy show set from Bride of Bizarro. TV host Judy is on stage introducing a segment called I Used to Be Evil, but Not Anymore. Judy is talking to the audience, asking whether they feel that if someone has been truly, genuinely rehabilitated, if they could learn to forgive someone who was once seen as pure evil. She asks, what if they have undergone a radical new medical procedure to change their thought patterns and behavior on a fundamental level? It doesn't change what they did, but would the idea that they are no longer capable of such actions mean that they should be able to return to society? The audience claps, and Judy says, we'll see. Please keep an open mind and welcome to the stage, Lex Luthor. Lex walks onto the stage. The audience boos. Lex looks sad and a little timid, but doesn't get angry. He addresses the audience looking remorseful, and in a line reminiscent of his line from Roads Not Taken, he says, I am rehabilitated. Dramatic music cue plays as the opening title sequence begins. We should probably stop there for the title sequence.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. The Fortress of Solitude, the initial scene, was great. It was such a nice little tease, nice little callback to Superman the movie, with Marlon Brando's Jor-El saying, "If I could just hold you in my arms,"
Yeah,
that was such a great scene, and then Superman, you know, unknowingly outstretches his arms and because he wants to hug his father. It was
yeah,
such a great scene. So I'm glad you incorporated that into this
mm,
first scene in, episode 2. That was
yeah.
really, really cool.
And I will say as well, while Jor-El's talking, you'll see the face of General Zod in a crystal. And General Zod in this show is played by shit. I've forgotten his name. He voiced Lex Luthor in the animated series.
Oh, Clancy Brown.
Clancy
Clancy Brown,
Brown. That's it. Yeah,
yeah.
he's played by Clancy Brown, uh, who I think would be a fantastic General Zod. in 1993. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good I like that casting. That's a really good casting, if you ask me.
yeah. Cheers.
Um,
What about the Judy show segment? Like,
I
are you?
love I love the callback to the Judy show because it has the Dark Knight Returns kind of feel to it, where the Joker going on and, oh, he's rehabilitated with his
Yeah,
therapist, so I like that little, spin and the callback to Roads Not Taken,
that's
where
exactly what I was going for with
yeah,
that. Yeah.
that was great because, like, I think a lot of fans, and we'll talk about this at the end of this episode, um, we're going back to things in those 4 seasons that people just loved, those moments, and we're expanding on them, and you're
Mm,
expanding on them within this
yeah.
episode. But I like that you went back to the Judy show, and here's Lex. I could totally see that shot of Lex sitting there next to, Judy going, "Lex, are you really rehabilitated?" And him just giving that kinda wink at the camera, like that sinister kinda grin or smile that Sherman Howard, like, completely like, he could go from menacing we've talked about it all the time on this podcast. He could go from seriously menacing to downright just psychopath. Like, he
Mm.
was just so good.
And then he could also go to like sympathetic, and you almost feel
Right.
for him, like especially in Road's Not Taken Part Two, like him playing Good Lex, and even in
Yeah.
Road to Hell as well. Like he's fantastic playing Good Lex, and I kind of wanted him to play the way that he is on stage in the Judy show, where he looks a little bit meek and sad.
Yeah.
It's more like the Road to Hell bad Lex. That's sort of he's Darla's whipping boy kind of thing.
Right, the insecure, not confident Lex,
Mm.
like, who defers to Darla because she's the mastermind.
Mm. And
Um,
it may just be an act. It may
right.
be he may be good, but it may be an act.
Well,
We'll
it's
we'll,
yeah,
we'll have to see.
I love the idea of him coming out onto the show looking timid and looking defeated and looking, like, just out of it, and then
Mm.
through the course of the interview, Judy interviewing him and him just building, building, and building, and then he becomes the Lex Luthor that we all know, and, I don't wanna say hate, but, we love to hate. That's it.
Yeah, the Lex we love to hate.
Right, I could see by the end of that scene, him winking at not so much winking at the camera, but, like, alluding that he's still the Lex Luthor we love to hate.
Mm.
So,
See, I
yeah,
could have done an entire page or two just of him and Judy's conversation, but I like that it ends with just the line "I am rehabilitated" and then the
right,
title sequence plays because it's enough of a tease. The audience can sort of guess what the rest of the show probably would have been based on
exactly.
Judy's introduction. So
Well, and I love that you keep the audience on the edge of their seat. Is he really rehabilitated or is he, just messing
mm,
with us? Because
yeah,
he is the ultimate puppet master, Lex
oh
Luthor.
definitely.
So yeah, the great first 2, scenes in episode 2 so far.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next bit. Uh, the title sequence plays exterior Metropolis day. A cab pulls up to the Daily Planet building. A man gets out carrying a suitcase with the initials CK on it. It's Clark, obviously. He walks inside the Daily Planet. Interior Daily Planet. Clark walks through the main bullpen of the Daily Planet. He's looking around the room, smiling. As he turns to look around the room, he accidentally bumps into a young man carrying coffee. The coffee cup falls, but Clark drops his suitcase and catches the coffee before it hits the floor. Wow, great reflexes. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Are you okay? The guy chuckles. Yeah, though my foot hurts a little. Clark looks down. His suitcase landed on the guy's foot. Clark picks it up again quickly. I'm sorry. Don't be. A slightly hurt foot is better than coffee stains on a burn any day. The guy extends his free hand to Clark. Jimmy Olsen, photographer and occasional coffee boy. Clark Kent, I've got an interview with Mr. White. Kent, oh right, TJ told me about you. He did? That's great. Is he here? Nah, he doesn't work here anymore. Last I heard, he's writing for some TV comedy prank show, but don't mention that to the chief. Clark chuckles. I'll bear that in mind. I'll see you, Jimmy. Clark goes to head towards Perry White's office, but Jimmy stops him. Hey, wait, I might as well give you a mini tour along the way since I'm heading there myself. Jimmy holds up the coffee. It's for the chief. Jimmy points around the room as they walk. He tells Clark about several of the people in the room as they go. Although I haven't bothered to actually write that down. uh, I might as well move straight on to the next scene. Interior Perry White's office, day. Jimmy knocks as he enters Perry's office. Jimmy is talking to Lois Lane. Lois is arguing rather loudly, and the chief is arguing back. Lois doesn't feel that she needs a writing partner, but Perry is having none of it. He says her last article was downright sloppy. She almost got herself killed investigating Alex Evel, which is a deep cut reference to a corrupt politician from Superman #5 from 1940. Lois said she knew the guy was a corrupt politician, but how was she supposed to know he'd try and murder her? Perry doesn't answer. He just says, on top of that, your spelling is atrocious. You need a partner to watch your back both in the field and on the page. Perry notices Clark standing in the doorway. We'll talk about this later. Perry gestures for Lois to leave. Clark steps back as Lois pushes past him without a word. Clark steps into the office. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Nonsense, that conversation was going nowhere anyway. I tell you, if Lane wasn't the best damn investigative reporter I've ever seen, I'd... Oh, never mind. Come in, Kent. Jimmy hands Perry the coffee. Perry takes a sip, remarks that it's cold, and tells Jimmy to get another. Jimmy says, sure, Chief, no problem. Perry says, don't call me Chief. Clark hands Jimmy an envelope as he leaves, asking him to add it to the outgoing mail. A close-up on the letter shows it's addressed to Bibbo Bobowski. Clark says, I already put a stamp on it. Clark and Perry begin to talk. Perry tells Clark he's impressed Clark took the initiative to travel and write spec stories to show the evolution of his writing style since leaving Schuster. Perry gets an idea. Say, you were at Schuster at the same time as that Luther character, right? Clark confirms this. Perry says he was going to give the story to Lois, but maybe this will be better. He points to the TV, which is on mute. Perry asks if he's heard all this load of bull about Luther being rehabilitated. Clark said he heard it on the radio on his way in. Perry says as supposedly some quack named Hugo Strange cured him of his evil nature, but he doesn't believe it. Either way, Strange must have the ear of someone powerful, since Luther has been granted a full pardon. Clark looks angry, saying they can't do that. Perry says apparently they can. He doesn't like it either. He has, however, set up an interview at Luther's new penthouse. Perry tells Clark, whatever happens, we report it. If he seems genuine, we report it. Exactly that. That he seems genuine. But make no mistake, if he's up to something, we'll be damn sure to report that too. Perry stands up and looks out the front window of the office overlooking the bullpen. That's what I love about the newspaper business, Kent. It's not just the smell of the ink and paper. It's something isn't right in the world, we do something about it. That's what real journalism is all about. Truth, justice. Why, it's the American way, son. And I love it. Clark tells Perry he agrees completely. Perry walks over to his desk, picks up Clark's writing samples and says, I know you do. It's right here on the page. That's why I'm giving you the Luther interview. A crashing sound is heard outside the office as Lois Lane staggers in over a plant she just knocked over. You can't be serious, Perry. That's my interview. You're going to give it to some no-name farm boy from Hicksville? Perry tells Lois, oh, you still have the interview, Lois. Clark Kent, meet your new writing partner, Lois Lane. Lois rolls her eyes as Clark extends his hand to Lois. Lois just turns and leaves, remarking, just don't get in my way. We should probably stop there for a minute since we've done a lot of pages. I forgot how long the second part of that scene was.
Yep. That was really, really good. I really liked Clark. Well, Clark meeting Jimmy, and then Jimmy knowing TJ from Perry, and like I love that Jimmy's the one that gives Clark the tour of the Daily Planet. Because we didn't see that at all in like Lois and Clark. We didn't see like Clark getting the grand tour of the Daily Planet.
Yeah.
Um, I like how Perry, like, looked over the writing samples of Clark, Clark traveling the world to gain credibility as a journalist,
Mm.
not just relying on his writings from Schuster, but actually going and writing and, like, again, like, we didn't really see that on Superboy, him being a journalist or a reporter and actually going and doing that stuff, and reporting on things in those later seasons. So I like that idea and him presenting his writings to Perry, and Perry seeing like, "Hey, you know what? This kid gets it. This kid knows what we're about. I'm gonna give him this and see what he brings back." So,
Mm. Yeah. What did you think about Perry White reflecting the truth, justice, and the American way line?
I like how you incorporated that line because a lot of writers leave that line out. I mean, look at Superman Returns, like, truth,
Yeah.
justice, and all that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I
I
think
don't like that the American way bit is always left out these days, but
right,
I
right.
get why. It's probably because the American way isn't quite as wholesome a concept as it once was.
I think the meaning has changed
Yeah.
since the '80s and the '90s
Mm.
where
But
people
this is
felt
1993, so
right, right, exactly. So it fits the time. I think it fits the idea of the American way should be in there. That's part of the character, that's part of
yeah.
Superboy, that's part of Superman. Like, they're from Kansas. You don't get as Henry Cavill's Superman would say, "I'm from Kansas." It doesn't get any more American than that, you
Yeah.
know? So
Or as Lois Lane said in
yeah,
it, like he's a no-name farm boy from Hicksville.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, it was a great introduction to Lois being all bumbly and she still
Mm.
doesn't know how to spell as a, uh, award-winning reporter. She still doesn't know how to
Yeah.
spell.
I always like that. It's sort of it.
Yeah.
It's one thing I loved in Superman the movie. Is something that they didn't really do with Lois and Clark. But since this is a universe that's quite similar to the Donnerverse, despite having the Lois and Clark cast for the most part, it's yeah, that's one element I wanted to keep. And it also makes more sense for her to have a writing partner that can even just check her spelling.
Right.
Even though I'm pretty sure they had spell checkers on computers in 1993.
Well, I mean, you had editors, so, like, come on,
Yeah,
like,
I mean
nothing
it's the editor's job, but you know.
nothing was gonna hit print. I
Yeah.
mean, if she didn't know how to spell, catastrophic, like, come on, it's n they're not gonna print something and her, like, spelling catastrophic starting with a K, like, no, come on. So,
Yeah.
but, but I
I mean,
love
Lois in Superman the movie can't spell words a lot simpler than that. It's like there's a line from Perry White. It's like there's only one P in rapist.
right.
Yeah.
But, I love the little Easter eggs on who rehabilitated Lex. I love the Hugo Strange, connection, and it's you're lending towards the Batman universe in that you're opening up that universe and bringing that into the Superboy universe in a way. So I
Yeah.
like that little entry, uh, into the Batman verse with Hugo Strange. So I really like that little Easter egg. That was great.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a lot more hints towards the Batman universe throughout the season. We may even see the Dark Knight himself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Don't
Possibly.
spoil it. Don't
I
spoil
don't
it.
want to spoil too much. Yeah. So yeah, and also I tried to put in something that Clark didn't really have in Lois and Clark, and not even so much in season 3 and 4 of Superboy.
Mhm.
But I think his nervousness about starting work at the Daily Planet has brought out his bumbling side a little bit more, like
Okay.
the bumping into Jimmy and dropping his
Right.
suitcase on Jimmy's foot so he can catch the coffee cup. And it's just like, even though he's done one thing that's kind of amazing, how he caught the coffee cup in midair, he still dropped his suitcase on Jimmy's foot. So
Well,
it's
yeah.
clumsy but also impressive. Like it's sort of the best of both worlds.
Well, I think you're right in that he's going from the small time at Schuster being a reporter to being a freelancer to actually going to almost like
Mm,
the professional leagues now as a reporter. Like
mm,
you're and like you did that in episode 1, you're progressing everybody forward and you're doing it again here with him going and I think a little bit too, like him going into Perry's office, he's a little bit more confident than as a writer as
mm.
opposed to Lois and Clark, where he was a freelancer, but Perry didn't give him the time of day. He had to prove himself. So I think
Yeah, in Lois and Clark, Perry wasn't as impressed by his traveling the
no,
world writing stories, like I think it was the Borneo Gazette or something like
or
that.
yeah. Oh
And
my god, deep cut. That's a deep
mm,
cut. But yeah,
yeah,
I think you showing Clark is a more confident writer, and Perry's more impressed as opposed to how he was in Lois and Clark by Clark's writing because
Mm.
Clark gets it, and he even says it to Clark, "You get what it means to be here, so you deserve to be here."
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really like that.
Brilliant. Also, one of my favorite parts in that. I mean, I feel awful just saying like my favorite parts in something that I myself wrote, but how Lois like was clearly listening to Clark's conversation with Perry, and like
Yeah.
as soon as she hears him say that he's giving Clark the interview, she crashes into the office, knocking over a plant because she was obviously hiding behind that plant listening.
Yeah. And
But
she's the star reporter. She feels threatened by Clark in a
mm,
way. Like, "Oh god, I don't want him to upstage me because 'cause I'm the one, you know, out here doing these amazing stories, and I don't want anybody else to have my stories because Perry relies on me."
yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
I realized that the way that I'm writing slash reading it, because I
Mhm.
don't have any acting ability, is I might be making us sound a little bit more like a bitch, but bear in mind Terry Hatcher's going to be playing Lois Lane, and
Right, right.
she is so insanely likable in the role that she'll make it work. Trust me. So just
Yeah,
bear in mind when I'm reading out people's lines, like Lois Lane is Terry Hatcher, Perry White
exactly.
is played
Lane.
by Lane Smith, and
Yes.
Jimmy is Michael Landis. So
Wow. Yeah, it just would be so interesting to see Clark Kent interacting with all these characters. It just yeah, it would be so interesting. But, like,
mm,
again, like, I just think, like, the first scene in the Daily Planet, I think you are already setting up a more confident Clark. Yeah, he's
yeah,
bumbly, yeah, he's, uh,
yeah. I think
playing
what I'm establishing as well, though, is that his bumbling and slightly clumsy nature
yeah,
isn't an act. Like he genuinely is that clumsy because he's so strong and powerful that he's probably constantly having to watch his movements, and that would make you a little bit awkward.
off balance a little bit, yeah.
Off balance, yeah. Like he's still a more confident Clark, but I still want to have those moments of physical comedy. Like I'm trying to strike a balance.
Right.
But
Well, I mean, we saw it in the seasons 3 and season 4, him having those situations just out of just sure, like, just of the situation. So
mm,
so I
yeah,
think, like, you carrying that forward in this episode with some levity, I think is that's great. That's great because 'cause you're giving Clark more you're developing him more as a character. Yeah, he's
mm.
confident, but yeah, he still has the Christopher Reeve, bumbliness of his Clark Kent a
It's
little bit.
just toned down a little bit.
Exactly, it's not as crazy as season 2 was, but, like, it's still
plus,
there.
plus, I added that element of Lois being a bit clumsy, knocking over the plant as well, just to sort of say like it's part of why they'd be so good together because they're both kind of clumsy at times, and even though their personalities are quite different, they've
Mhm.
clearly got something in common already. They just
Right,
don't see it.
right. It's great writing, it's perfect writing in that, like, you're playing off of both of these characters, and you're showing right off the bat how similar they are,
Mm,
and, in certain aspects of how they act, in their daily lives, so I think that's really, really, um it's a good comparison of the 2 characters, so I
cool.
love how they're like, they haven't interacted yet, but, like,
Yeah,
it's
Lois has barely not even said a word to Clark
yeah,
apart
yeah,
from just don't get in my way.
yeah, in my way, which is very reminiscent of the Lois and Clark pilot, that was Lois's drive because she felt threatened by Clark, like,
Mm,
"Don't get in my way," like
yeah,
what you wrote in the script, like, "Don't get in my way."
yeah. She really doesn't want a writing partner in Lois and Clark
No,
or
she
this.
doesn't.
But let's move on anyway. So yeah, the last thing that happened was Clark and Lois leaving the Daily Planet. Exterior location unknown. Day. A woman's hand can be seen holding a remote detonator. The woman presses the button. In her other hand, she has a huge 90s cell phone. She opens the phone book, highlights the name Lex, and starts the call. Interior Lex Luthor's new penthouse. Day. Lex is standing by the window, looking over Metropolis, drinking bourbon. New city, new city, new lease on life, new suit. Is there anything better? What do you think, Leo? Lex looks down at his feet. A small orange cat is rubbing against his leg. Lex's phone starts ringing. Looking at the caller ID, which the audience doesn't see the name of, only a close up of the word caller ID, Lex hits a button and the phone stops ringing before walking away. Moments later, Lex's doorbell rings. A woman in black comes from the front door, followed by Clark and Lois. The reporters from the Daily Planet are here, Lex. Thank you, Mercy, who wasn't invented for 2 years after this is supposed to be set, but screw it. She was invented for the animated series, and now she's invented for this. Lex extends his hand to Lois first, then Clark. Neither shake his hand. Lex remarks that it's a strange way to start an interview before asking Clark how Lana is doing. Clark makes a fist and steps forward. Lois stops him. Mercy Graves looks ready to pounce on Clark, but Lex stops her. Lex tells Mercy she can leave for the afternoon, but to give the good doctor a knock on her way out. Mercy leaves. Lex offers Clark and Lois a drink. They turn it down. Clark asks if Lex really expects them to believe he's turned over a new leaf. Oh, Clark, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little insulted. But I'm not surprised. And believe me, I understand. I've been a horrible human being these past few years. Clark remarks, and the rest. Lex asks Clark if he really considers fixing a few basketball games in college that bad considering. And Clark says, you were also a jewel thief, a wannabe gangster, a black market weapons dealer who stole from the military, you hired assassins to kill your enemies, and that was before you changed your face. Then you got your hands dirty and started killing people yourself. Lex remarks he only ever had one enemy. Clark nods. Lex finishes his sentence. My real enemy was, of course, myself. Clark asks what caused this sudden change of heart. Lex's door opens and a bald, bearded man in a white coat, played by Patrick Stewart, enters the room. The man answers Clark's question to Lex. In a word, science. The man introduces himself as Professor Hugo Strange. Clark is about to ask another question, but Lois cuts him off. Lois interviews Hugo Strange. She finds out Strange cured Lex using a combination of brain surgery, specially formulated drugs, shock therapy, and as Strange puts it, good old-fashioned psychoanalysis. Lois remarks that you couldn't find a better psycho to analyze. Strange says, well, quite. At least outside of Gotham. Now, the fact of the matter is, my techniques produce real results. Lex says, it's true. 6 months ago, I would have happily killed little Leo here, just like the last one. The cat, Leo, is purring away on Lex's lap. Lois's pager beeps and she checks it. She tells Clark it's Perry, and then says, you don't mind if I use your phone, I take it, and she picks up the phone without waiting for Lex to respond. Clark listens to the call with his super hearing while staring Luther down. Luther remarks, good to see you've gained a little confidence nowadays, Clark. Clark says, what is that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just looks good on you. Clark realizes he stopped listening to the phone call. Lois hangs up and says, we've got to go, there's a situation. Lex says, oh dear. Nothing serious, I hope. Lois says, there's a 747 about to crash just off of Metropolis Harbour. They think it's sabotage. Lex says, oh no. Barely hiding his amusement. Clark stands up and says forcefully, so help me, if you have anything to do with this, you diseased maniac. Lex cuts him off. I mean it, that's awful. I hope they manage a safe emergency landing. Clark goes to say something else to Luther, but Lois grabs him by the tie and pulls him out the door. Strange turns to Lex. You didn't have anything to do with it, did you? Lex smiles. Absolutely not. Let's stop there for a moment before we go to the next scene. Since that was quite a long scene with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that was a long scene. But yeah, like I love like Clark like basically going down the list of all the things that he's done. No,
That was just in season 1.
yeah, like it's just crazy. But like you could just see like the animosity Lex and Clark has for Lex after everything. And I love the line Lex replies back to Clark like I've only had one enemy and that was Superboy. So
He says he only had one enemy, and that was himself.
oh, himself, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
obviously you're expecting him to say Superboy, but then when he says his enemy was himself,
yeah, I've only had one enemy, and then he like you wrote like himself, like and you like again you have to think about it. Like, was it really himself, or is he just projecting onto Superboy? Like
I think
that's
he's just lying through his teeth.
oh, totally. Yeah, totally. I love the casting of Patrick Stewart. I really, because like in '93, he was like
Mm.
at the height of his television popularity with the Next Gen, and,
Was it 1993 or 1994 when they made Generations
it was,
movie?
they filmed in '94 out in Nevada,
Right, so
and
it's just before that.
yeah, it was like that last season, season 7 of Next Gen.
Mm,
So, yeah, I could totally see him as Hugo Strange, and it would just be like, it would just bring, like, so much more, like, gravitas to the
definitely.
series with Patrick Stewart, 'cause he was knocking it out of the park as Captain Picard.
Mm.
So,
It's also
but
fun
yeah,
to see him play a villain. So
right. Instead of being the good guy, the good captain, the diplomatic captain all the time, so yeah, I think it's cool to at that time, to give him something other to play other than the good guy every week. So,
mm,
and again, like, I love that you're opening up the Batman world into the Superboy universe, well, the Donnerverse. So, yeah, I just think it's really, really cool, and again, the interaction between Lex and Clark, and even introducing, Mercy into the series, even though she wasn't
she wasn't
created,
invented for another 2 years,
you know?
or more,
But my favorite thing was the callback to Leo, him naming the cat Leo, which was hilarious, you
which
know?
is a nod to my cat Leo.
There you go, there you go.
But yeah, I spent a long time when we first got Leo. Like every time I see, her, I'd be like, "Hello, Leo." Just trying to do Scott Wells.
Right.
But yeah,
But yeah, I
I
love the
liked the
scene.
idea of bringing Leo back as a cat. I
Yeah.
just thought it's funny that he'd name his cat Leo.
Well, I mean, Leo was his best friend and, growing up,
Mm.
so, like, I just think it's just such a Lex thing to do, you know? Uh, name name your best friend who you killed off, name your cat that. Like, come on.
Yeah,
It's such a Lex thing to do, so,
yeah,
but,
it is. Yeah, Lex is he's a complicated one.
totally. But I
But
and then I love how the scene ends with the dramatic, you know, um, emergency that's going on,
mm,
and Clark says, "I hope you didn't have anything to do with this, you diseased maniac," which is
mm.
he said that a few times in the Superboy series, "You diseased
It
maniac."
started with Superman the movie though, like
Oh, okay. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Christopher Reeve's like yeah, I think it's when something about when he first asks where the when Lex says that he's got nerve gas or something, and
Mhm.
he's yeah he calls him a diseased maniac in that. So
Yeah, and he
I
did it
always like that line, you diseased maniac.
again,
Yeah.
that's another connection that a lot of fans don't make, is that he says that line of dialogue in Superman the movie, and he says it again in Gerard's Superboy says it in the show.
Mm.
Um, like, again,
It's just a great line.
it's
It's
a
a
great
great
call
thing for Gerard to call Lex.
yeah, it's a great callback. So,
Mm.
now that with the 747 going down, did Lex really have something to do with it? Most likely. So,
Well,
let's
we'll see. We'll see.
let's continue on.
Uh, Exterior, Metropolis day. Lois hails a cab, but Clark fumbles in his pockets, pretending to have lost something. He tells Lois he must have left his asthma inhaler in Lex's apartment and that he'll meet her there. Lois says, "Not a great start, Kent. I'm not about to let you slow me down. Just meet me at the harbour." Lois looks annoyed but smiles when she gets into the cab. She tells the cabbie to get to the harbour and step on it. Clearly, Lois is trying to beat Clark to a scoop or something, even though they're supposed to be working together. Clark watches the cab drive away before running into an alleyway. He rips his shirt open and flies away. Clark, now in full supersuit, flies towards the plane. One of the plane's engines has blown. There is smoke and fire. Clark flies behind it, using his super breath to put out the fire. He then grabs the engine, levels out the plane, and instead of the plane hitting the city, he lands it safely on the water. He flies up to the. Obviously, that scene is going to be a little bit longer than I've just read out because epic action and all that stuff. Yeah. He flies up to the plane door, opens it, and steps inside. He asks if anyone is hurt. Thankfully, no one is. Before telling everyone, he hopes this incident hasn't put any of them off flying. Statistically speaking, it's the safest way to travel. He leaves, flying towards the city. As he leaves the plane, a woman steps out from behind a building on the harbour, watching Superboy fly away. It's Darla. She throws a remote detonator into the water, muttering, "Damn you," under her breath. Uh, Even though it's quite a short scene, let's stop for a moment because the
Yeah,
next scene is longer.
yeah, no, that was, so Superboy saves the 747. The line of dialogue from Superman the movie, um, statistically speaking, it's still the safest way to travel. Like, again,
It's
like
basically the scene from Superman Returns, except he has an easier time getting the plane onto the water because
right.
we're
Well,
using
we're on
Christopher Reeve type physics rather than the ring breaking off and all that.
we're being on a television budget, you know? So
Yeah,
so
it's
yeah,
still going to be a pretty epic like sequence, but it's a TV budget, so you're not going to have the whole wing snaps off and then he's flying down, he lands it in a baseball stadium and all
right.
that stuff. Like he's going to level out the plane the same way he did with Air Force One. Or
Mhm.
is it Air Force One in Superman the movie, the president's plane?
Yeah, it was Air Force One.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he basically does it the same way he did in that. Like, I should have
Oh,
written in the pilot saying, "Have we got our engine back?" But
flying alongside, holding it with one
fly,
hand. Yeah.
fly, just fly.
Just right.
I'm not gonna tell you why, how. Just trust me.
I love the look on the pilot's face is like, "What the hell is
Like when
that?"
they wave to it,
And they
they
wave back.
wave out the window.
But yeah, like, again, like, it's just great with and how the scene ends with Darla being the one behind it all. Like,
Mm.
that was great
Yeah, she was
'cause she
obviously the hand with the detonator earlier in the episode as well.
yeah,
So
yeah,
when she
but
pressed the button, that's what she was doing. And then she
yeah,
tries to call Lex, but he just rejects the call. Like he doesn't even want to speak to her. So,
well, and, like, it's the, um it's their interaction that w Darla's always wanting affection and approval and respect from Lex. She wants to be
mm,
validated that she's she's his equal in a way,
mm,
and I love that. It's like the Harley Quinn and the Joker relationship in a way, that
definitely, yeah.
Harley's always trying to prove to the Joker, like, "I'm just like you, I wanna be with you, and, like, this is what I'm willing to do to be with you and to show how much I love you. Like, I'm gonna go take out a 747 with all these innocent bystanders just to show you."
Mm.
Like, that's just how messed up their relationship is. But that's what we love. That's what we love is, but, Darla was the Harley Quinn of the Superboy
Oh,
verse.
definitely, definitely.
So
Even down to her accent and voice, almost. It's
exactly.
a very similar thing.
Yeah.
I do have to wonder if there was any influence when they invented Harley Quinn. Like, it'd be interesting if someone
Yeah,
who one of the people that invented her actually came out and said, "Yes, that was partly an inspiration." Probably not, but it'd be interesting if it was.
right. Right, and
But
I think how Tracy Roberts well, how she played the character was just, like, again, like, was amazing. She
mm,
really brought something to that, and even Sherman Howard saw that in her and wrote that Darla Goes Ballistic episode for her
mm.
because he saw just how talented she was, given,
That
uh
comes back. I'm not going to say how, but
okay,
Darla
and
Goes Ballistic is a major
good segue,
influence in this.
huh? That's a good segue.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, Sherman totally saw there was something in her, uh, acting-wise that he could try to bring out, and
Mm.
writing that script, like, just played to her strengths, so, yeah, I can't wait to see what you do with it, how you expand on that story.
Yeah.
So, but
Anyway, next scene.
yeah,
The last thing that happened, obviously, Darla throws the remote detonator into the water, muttering "damn you" under her breath as Superboy is flying away from the plane he just landed. Anyway, exterior Metropolis Harbor. Superboy flies directly above Lois and Jimmy Olsen as he heads back to the city. This is all in one shot. You see Superboy flying above Lois and Jimmy, and then Lois watches as Jimmy's taking photos. A moment later, as Superboy disappears into the distance, Clark Kent comes running up to them. Uh, yeah, so he's obviously come back a lot faster than super speed. But Lois remarks that Clark missed the action. Even Jimmy got there before him. Jimmy says, "Don't worry, Mr. Kent. I got plenty of photos. Did you see? Superboy was here." Lois tells Jimmy to get more photos. She tells Clark he might as well just head back to the planet. She's got it from here. Clark says he can stay and to interview some of the passengers. Lois abruptly tells Clark to leave. Clark goes to argue, but Jimmy says, "I wouldn't get further on Lois's bad side. Don't worry, you'll get the next one." Clark, defeated, leaves. Interior, Daily Planet. Clark is sitting at his desk looking a little bit depressed. He's typing up the Luther interview, finishing just as Lois and Jimmy walk in. He hits print when Lois and Jimmy walk up to his desk. Jimmy says he got some great photos and says he'll show them to Clark as soon as they're brought up from the processing/development lab downstairs. Uh, Lois asks if Clark has just been sitting there feeling sorry for himself all afternoon. Clark tells her no. In fact, he just finished writing up the Luther story. Lois begins to say that they're partners and should be doing everything together, but she catches herself, realizing that she is the reason they weren't together that afternoon. She says, "Let me read that. I'm sure it will need a rewrite." Lois reads the story. She looks slightly more annoyed as she finishes. Clark asks if there's something wrong with the story. Lois says reluctantly, "No, it's great. But still, you should have. Whatever. Give it to Perry." Lois walks away to her desk and begins typing forcefully, practically bashing her computer's keyboard as if it's a 1930s typewriter. We'll stop there for a moment.
No, the Lois like reading over Clark's story, Lex's interview, his write
Mm,
up of the interview. Uh, I just love like her looking. I could totally see like Terry Hatcher reading that and just going, "Damn, he's good," you know.
yeah.
And
She's
just
almost annoyed that it's good and it doesn't need a rewrite.
right. Like, it's just like, man, he's really good, like, and just, like, her being jealous and, like, I could totally see her, like, taking, like, a red marker out and just, like, marking it all up just to show, like, this is what
Mm.
a professional reporter would do, you
Yeah, that's
know?
what she wants to do, but then she's annoyed that she can't because it's genuinely good.
Yeah.
But,
But I like
yeah.
one shot of Superboy flying over and Jimmy and Lois seeing him, you know?
Mm.
That
Yeah,
was great.
literally in the same shot, you see the camera pan from the skies, you see Superboy flying over, and then as it reaches the ground, you see Clark run from behind a building and up to them. So it's like that shot in Superman the movie where you see Superman fly away, and as the camera pans, Clark is
Yeah,
knocking on the door.
yeah.
It's a similar sort of thing. I
But, I
always
mean,
like when they do stuff like that. So obviously the Superboy flying over was a stuntman, and then they've just got Gerard on the ground. He runs
running up
up to them.
yeah. But I love the dialogue that you wrote for Clark as to why he has to go and change into Superboy and save the 747.
Well, the
Uh,
asthma inhaler.
he left his inhaler at Lexus. That's because some of the best lines of dialogue that they gave Clark was the reasons why he had to go change into Superboy. And even on
Yeah.
Lois and Clark, some of the, "Oh, I forgot to put a quarter in the parking meter." Like, really?
It's like, Clark, you don't have a car.
The videotape to Blockbuster or something. It was just so funny. It's just so funny, as to why he had to go off and change. I forgot to pay the maid. Like, it's just so but yeah, like, totally, like, it totally fits with what you're doing, in this episode, just moving everybody, like, it's just so good. I just
Mm.
really love, it's just the callbacks to,
It's one of my favorite things, though, is the coming up with the excuses that they sound believable, but
right.
after a while, there's so many of them. You start asking why aren't people questioning why he's always got a clearly false excuse. But
Your asthma
yeah,
inhaler, Clark, really? Like, that was great. I really like
yeah.
that. And that's something that's one excuse I don't think any writers has used up until this point.
I couldn't remember anyone saying that excuse, and
Yeah.
it surprised me, which is why I used that because I was trying to think for ages. I was gonna pull an excuse from an episode of Lois and Clark or from a comic or something like that. But I was like, no,
Yeah,
why has nobody said this one yet? Because it also makes Clark look a little bit more. It gives more reason to why he's got the persona of a mild-mannered reporter. It's like he
yeah,
can't really do too much because he's got asthma. If he gets too worked up, he
right,
might he might have an asthma attack or something. It's a good excuse to make him look weak in the eyes of Lois Lane, so she doesn't suspect him of being Superman.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
I love that excuse. That was great.
hmm. Did you like my reference to Lois bashing away on a computer keyboard like it's a 1930s typewriter?
That
Because
was
I thought this is sort of a fun callback to how old the character is. It
yes.
was
That was
38, wasn't it, that he was invented? Superman.
yes, 1938. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. I can just imagine Lois Lane punching away at her keyboard though, like it's type. She's just that pissed off that the story was good.
Right,
But
and it just shows how competitive she is, just like she was in Lois and Clark. This is a
mm,
reporter who she will do anything to get the story and get the byline because she doesn't wanna share the byline with Clark.
mm. I
Um,
forgot to mention as well. Like I meant to write it into the thing, but I never did. Like Clark's article about the Luther interview, he does write that it's by Clark Kent and Lois Lane, even though she didn't actually write it.
okay.
So that would have annoyed her a little bit more as well. That
He wrote the
that
whole
he's so nice to still put her credit in the line byline.
"Thanks, Smallville." I could totally see her saying that, like, but I didn't
Mm.
write anything, and he
She
was
was at the interview, so he gave her credit. Clark is that nicer person, so he would have done.
that nice. Yeah, total mild-mannered guy who, he threw Lois one. There you go,
Mm.
the professional reporter. So, yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the next thing. Interior Perry White's office evening. Perry is reading Clark's article. He says, "Well, I must admit, when you first came back to the office early, I thought you were done. But I see now what you were doing. You wanted the jump on writing the article before Lois got back. Very shrewd." Clark says, "No, no, you misunderstand, Mr. White. No, no, you did the right thing. We need both articles to go to the printers tonight. You wouldn't have time otherwise. And this article is exactly the kind of thing we need. Despite your history with Luther, you wrote a balanced, unbiased account of your interview. It's unforgiving, but at the same time open-minded about the possibility of his rehabilitation. Good work." Clark thanks him. Perry tells Clark to go help Lois with the plane story. As Clark leaves, Perry chuckles to himself. He named his cat Leo. Great shades of Elvis. Interior, Lex Luthor's penthouse, evening. Mercy Graves knocks on Lex's door as she enters. She tells Lex what happened at the harbour. Lex smiles. And then she tells Lex that she saw Darla at the harbour. Lex stops smiling. Lex remarks that Darla is an idiot. She's going to ruin everything. Mercy asks if Lex wants her to deal with the Darla problem. Lex says, "Yeah, ow!" as a buzzing sound is heard. Lex stops, changes his mind, and says, "Now, now, Mercy, I couldn't possibly ask you to end her life. Just keep an eye on her. If she tries anything again, point the authorities in her direction. They can deal with her. After all, I'm a good boy now. I couldn't possibly kill her." Lex grins and laughs. Yeah, we'll stop there for a moment.
Yeah, I that was hilarious. I'm a good boy now. I really are.
He's just relishing in the idea. Like he's just yeah. He's
He's
clearly enjoying himself a fair bit.
yeah, he's totally, like, using this rehabilitation to his own advantage,
No,
totally.
definitely.
But,
Did you like how when Mercy asks if Lex wants her to deal with the Darla problem, like he goes to say yes, and then he sort of
no.
yells in pain?
Yeah.
Like
Uh-huh.
basically, what Lex has, he's got. You watched Buffy, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah.
He's basically got Spike's chip in his head.
Oh, jeez.
So, like, if Spike hurt a living thing, he would have an incredible amount of pain. He's
Right.
basically got a similar implant. So, if he tries to kill anyone or do anything illegal, like, he basically gets electric shocked in the head.
So
But
he really
courtesy,
is
yeah, courtesy if you go strange. Although Lex is smart, he'll find a way around it, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, what did you think about the Perry White and Clark See,
I like that because you're bringing back his fandom of Elvis, and I really like that about Perry. I mean, it was
yeah.
something just totally ridiculous, but you know what? It totally worked for Lane Smith's portrayal of the character.
It really, this probably my favorite. This probably why Lane Smith is my favorite Perry White of all time.
Yeah,
Like he was just brilliant in the role, and I loved his Elvis obsession, and I want to
yeah.
keep that going because I just love the phrase "great shades of Elvis" as well. Like it's a good update of Great Seasons Ghost.
Oh, yeah, and it was just you know what? And again, it's a callback to Americana. Elvis is Americana, just like Superman is Americana.
Yeah.
So, I like that, like, I just love that portrayal of, Perry White because it just resonated with fans.
I
And
wish I could do a Lane Smith impression. The lines would sound so much better in his voice. Like when I'm writing it, I hear his voice in my head, but
yeah,
I can't do his voice, so it's not quite the same. So I apologize to the listeners. I can't do a Lane Smith impression.
but I think the great thing that Lane Smith did that he doesn't get enough credit for was he took the classic Perry White from the comics and made it his own and
Mm,
blended it with southern, uh like, attitude a little bit, you
definitely.
know, of Perry White, and it just worked. It totally worked, and through the course of that
Everything about the way he did it was right out of the comics as well, though. Like it
exact
was definitely it was an update, but the
yeah,
core of the character was it actually what's the word? It kind of amplified
yeah,
the core points about the character. Like he's kind of a fatherly figure. He loves the
exact
people that work for him,
right.
and the Elvis thing just it's like yeah,
It humanized him. It gave him a
definitely.
hobby. Like, and a lot of people of that generation, of Perry White's generation, would be into Elvis, you know?
Especially if they're southern. Like
Yeah.
he's a southern icon. So
Yeah, being a Southern gentleman, a Southern man, like, yeah, I mean, he would totally be into Elvis or into that type of music. So I totally get it. So it was just and Lane Smith, he didn't play it, like, completely over the top. He humanized the character, he dealt with stuff in his personal life, and he confided in Clark and Lois in certain episodes, so, like, I that's what I loved about Lane Smith. His
mm,
character was his Perry White, he really humanized the Perry White, but yeah, he
it,
he was able to go make it fun and make him a very lovable and likable character as
mm,
Perry White as the boss, and like you said, he showed compassion towards Clark and Lois by the end of the show,
yeah.
by the
They
end of
they were
the series.
basically like family. The people at the
Exactly,
Daily Planet, they were like a big family. And
exactly.
is the thing I loved about his Elvis thing is he always had an Elvis story that was perfect advice for whatever situation they were in.
Right.
And like I think there was an episode Jimmy actually says to him like, I love your Elvis stories, Chief." And he just smiles and he goes, "I've got a million of them." But
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, they were completely, like, crazy stories, but he found a hook to make it, like, relate to what Clark was going through or Lois was going through, it was just like, that's what Lane Smith's Perry White, I thought, he did so well as the
yeah.
character. He would take something just completely insane, like a completely insane Elvis story, and relate it to and help Clark through or help Lois through a situation, or even
Mm.
Jimmy to a certain extent, who
I
he
don't
figured
think there's been a better Perry White
I don't
ever.
think I don't
Because
think
I like Jackie Cooper, but he's barely in the movies really.
well,
So
I think the biggest thing with Lane Smith's Perry White is that they saw an actor who, if they just gave him material to work with, could make Lane Smith's Perry White, a huge part of Lois and Clark, and I think, like, it's very easy to write Perry White as the one note editor, "Lois, I need a story. I need a story
mm,
now." Get it to print. Like, and just give him those lines, but they gave Lane Smith stuff to work with and make the character a well-rounded character, and that's
mm,
what I liked about Lane Smith's, portrayal of Perry White.
definitely,
He totally humanized the character. So,
definitely, yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Interior Daily Planet. Lois is typing as Clark brings her a coffee. Lois thanks him and asks who would have done something like this, gesturing towards her article about the plane. Clark says he can think of several people, but only one that recently moved to Metropolis. Lois says that as reporters we don't accuse without evidence, but also says, yeah, she agrees. She doesn't believe Luther getting to Metropolis the same day is a coincidence. Jimmy runs up to the desk. He says his photos are developed and hands them to Lois. Lois and Clark look through the photos. Lois sets aside the one she feels are good enough to use. One in particular she looks at shows Superboy flying away from the plane. She says that's the shot and remarks how Superboy is looking like he's been working out. She bites her lip looking at it, smiling. Clark, however, is distracted looking at a photo of rescued passengers. He spots someone. Using his supervision, he zooms in, spots Darla in the distant background. He says, Darla. Lois grabs the photo and asks, where? Clark points her out. Lois asks what prescription glasses he uses and asks if they'd work for her. She then adds to the article about the Luther connection before printing. Clark looks towards the window, his super hearing picking up the sounds of a woman shouting at police. He walks to the window and uses his X-ray vision and supervision simultaneously to zoom in on a street a couple of blocks away. Darla is being arrested outside Lex's apartment building as he and Mercy stand watching. Lex is shouting things like, how could you? Darla is shouting that she wanted to prove to Lex that he's still the same person, that he couldn't be cured. Lex tells her she's wrong and that he hopes she'll get the help she needs in prison. Darla spits at Lex and is dragged into the police car, but she somehow manages to slip her handcuffs, snatches one of the cops' guns and makes a run for it, shooting behind her. Lex nonchalantly turns and just strolls back into the building with Mercy. Clark stops watching. He slips away unnoticed. Exterior, Metropolis Street, day. Superboy lands in front of Darla as she runs from the police into an alley. Darla stops and points the gun at Superboy. Superboy looks at her and says, Darla, you know that won't work on me. A homeless guy stands up from behind a dumpster next to Darla, saying, what the hell? Darla grabs him and points the gun directly at his temple. Superboy shouts, Darla! Darla says, don't come any closer. The homeless guy looks terrified. Superboy super speeds forward, grabbing the gun, pointing it into the air as bullets fly, saving the homeless man. He doesn't push him through 3 stone walls, like a certain movie. Even though it's the exact same situation. The homeless guy runs away. Superboy says, damn it, Darla. She points the gun at Superboy and shoots 3 times, but obviously the bullets just bounce off him. Darla breaks down and cries. Superboy asks if her and Lex's little shouting match was just for show. Darla says Lex betrayed her and himself. Superboy asks if Lex has really become good. Darla remarks that he should not be so naive. Superboy nods before grabbing Darla by the arm. Darla winces. Superboy notices that her thumbs are broken. Darla sees him notice. She remarks that Lex taught her that trick. You ever want to get out of cuffs? Just break your thumbs. It's easy. She takes a breath. Not so easy. Nothing with Lex ever was. Darla looks genuinely sad. She has tears in her eyes. All that man ever did was hurt me. Even when he tried to teach me something, he hurt me all the same. Even now, he's supposedly good now, so why is he still hurting me? Superboy asks Darla why she tried to crash the plane. She says that she just wanted Lex to be proud of her, just once. As Darla breaks down in tears again, Superboy is thrown backwards, cracking a wall. Superboy, a little dazed, gets up. Darla, how did you? Darla says that antidote to the brainy stuff Lex and you cooked up didn't work, not completely. I'm not going to let you take me in, Superboy. Superboy tries to grab Darla, but she throws him back, holding him in place, lifting him into the air. Darla, please stop. Darla says she's going to make Lex love her again. Superboy tells Darla she should forget Lex, that he never loved her, and it's time she turned her life around. Darla lifts Superboy further into the air. Superboy's head starts turning to the side further and further. Darla is trying to break his neck. Superboy breaks 3 and Darla is stunned. Through a great speech, which I haven't written because it's maybe a little bit beyond my ability, informed by Clark's earlier conversation with Jor-El in the fortress, Superboy gets Darla to calm down. He convinces her that she can change, that she can be better. With her powers, she could even be a superhero. But she has to decide now. Darla says, "Really? You think I could be a superhero like you?" Superboy smiles. "With powers like yours, you could be a real force for good. I can help you with that. Together, we can help you control your powers. That's how you get back at Lex. He won't be able to stand it." Darla smiles with a single tear runs down her cheek. That would be pretty fantastic. Darla agrees to turn herself in. Superboy tells her he'll speak at her hearing to try and get her sentence reduced. Darla thanks him. He leads her out of the alley back to the cops. As Darla is recuffed with her head down, she apologizes to the police officer, and she actually means it. Superboy tells her it's never too late to change, and that he'll see her soon. Darla asks, "What about Lex?" Superboy says, "If he's really changed, well, that would be something, wouldn't it? I hope it's true. But if not, he'll have to deal with the both of us." Superboy flies away. As the camera pans back down to the street, we see a man sitting in an expensive looking car. He's watching the scene through the window. The man driving the car, who we do not see at this point, asks in a British accent, "Shall we be going now, sir?" "Yes, Alfred. Drive." The car pulls away. Let's stop there.
Wow. I love the scene. I love that scene with Darla and Superboy, and I think that's the whole thing with the character of Superman or Superboy is that they always find the redeeming quality, even if you are a character like Darla, like, I love that Superboy recognizes, like, you could be a force for good,
Mm.
and just, in a way, like, kinda stick it to Lex. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Let's
great.
face it, there's nothing that Lex would find more infuriating than
It
if
is.
Darla became a superhero. Like it would drive him wild.
Oh, yeah, right. Because like, now Lex has to deal with that, and then he has to deal with Superboy. Um, it's just I just think it would be it would totally turn everything on its head, like, "Hey, Lex, look what I did." Like, I
Mm.
took I took your number 2 and I made her a superhero. I
Mm.
made her realize, like, that you are, um the way you have treated her is just completely, like, wrong, you
Mm.
know?
I mean, that's
Again.
that's one thing Superman has done in the comics for a long time. Is like he
Yeah,
doesn't just want to catch the bad guy, throw them in prison, and forget about them. If he can actually rehabilitate them for real and make
yeah,
them actually turn their lives around and be better,
yeah.
he's going to try it every time.
Well,
And
it's
Darla has
interesting.
superpowers, so if he's going to get her to turn her life around, it's
Right.
only logical that she becomes a superhero.
Well, it was great
Plus,
that
how awesome would it be if she does?
well, I love the reveal that she still has her powers, that the serum didn't work and Darla goes
Mm.
ballistic at the end of the episode. Yeah, the world was saved, but yeah, she still has the powers to a certain extent.
Yeah. Like, I
So
mean, that was revealed at the end of Darla Goes Ballistic. Like,
exact
literally the last moment is her winking at the computer and it turns off.
right,
So we've known since that episode that she's still got some of her powers. Basically,
right.
what it is she's no longer super brainy, like super
Mm,
smart, but she
right.
still has like the psychokinetic abilities.
Y
So
she and I think the other thing too, she can control them now to
yeah,
a greater degree, whereas before
they've
she just
reduced. Maybe all it did really was stabilize them. So
exactly.
it's like when Bizarro was going to explode and the Bizarro kryptonite made him feel better.
That's
Like,
right,
yeah,
that's right.
similar sort of thing.
But yeah, like, I love that you are going to back to the core values of who Superman and Superboy are, and that they see the redeeming qualities even in somebody as bad and who has basically helped Lex with a lot of crazy stuff in the past. Like, Superboy sees that, you know what? You're a force for good. Instead of being a force for evil, you're a force for good, and let me
Hmm.
help.
At the end of
So
the day, she's not so much a villain as she is a victim of Lex.
right, right. She's an anti-hero, total anti-hero.
Yeah, she's done bad things up until now, but it's always because of Lex.
Right, she's
Like
seeking
she is a
that
victim, really.
approval. Yeah, exactly.
I don't
exactly.
want to. I don't want to quote Star Trek Picard because I wasn't overly keen on it. But
Yeah,
there is a good moment in it where Picard realizes that the Borg are victims of
mhm,
the Borg,
yeah,
and that was kind of a cool moment. And yeah, Darla's basically the same thing. Like
right.
she's not evil. She's just
She just didn't know any better. That's the thing.
one, she didn't know any better, and two, she was under the influence of someone who was so incredibly evil
Right.
that yeah, she
Yeah,
she she yeah,
I think it's all about validation and, like,
absolutely.
again, just wanting to be
She had no chance of staying
right.
good.
Exactly. Exactly. So, let's continue. Tom,
Yeah.
let's
What did you think about the man in the car?
where
Should I
is that?
reread that bit? Right at the
Yeah,
very end,
like,
as
no,
Superboy flies away, as the camera pans
I
down to
like
the street, we see a man sitting in an expensive car.
right,
Shall we be going now, sir? Yes, Alfred.
right.
Drive.
But who did you cast as the butler? Who did you cast as the guy in driving?
Well, Alfred, the butler, is Anthony Head from Buffy. Giles
Buffy.
from Buffy is
Yes,
Alfred,
perfect
and
cast.
Mark Valley is playing Bruce Wayne in that moment.
That was, again, the nice reveal of, Bruce Wayne and Alfred in the car. I
Mm.
love that. That
Like
that
you
was
only see Bruce Wayne, but as soon as you hear him say, "Shall we be going now, sir?" Like you're still wondering, who is this guy? As soon as he
right,
says, "Yes, Alfred, drive,"
right.
like, anyone who's ever seen anything Batman related is just like, "Oh shit, that's Bruce Wayne."
It was a cool moment, like, 'cause, like, you could totally, like, believe that I you know what? I'm a fan of Mark Valley. He voiced Superman, I think. I think he did,
I
yeah.
think he did in the Dark Knight Returns animated movie, if I'm right. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
not.
No, I don't think it was that. But I know
I don't
he
know, but I loved him in Human Target, which was a DC
yeah.
based show, and he was fantastic in that. He was in an episode of Arrow, but I don't remember exactly who he played.
Actually, I
But
think you're right. I think he was the Dark Knight or Superman in the Dark Knight Returns animated film.
hmm.
Yeah.
but also
I love him from Boston Legal. When he
that
was on
yeah,
Boston Legal, he was
he was fantastic in Boston Legal, and
yeah.
yeah,
He played, I think he was in the Navy and then turned lawyer, but the way he played it, very straight-laced and very no nonsense as opposed to James Spader's, uh character was just, like you could totally see Mark Valley as Superman or as a Clark Kent because
yeah,
he like
or a Bruce Wayne, like
or
Bruce
Bruce
Wayne's
Wayne.
sort of public persona.
Yeah, just very serious and very like, whenever, like, James Spader's character joked around, he was the straight-laced guy. He's like, "Nope, I'm not joking around, I'm not playing down to you, whatever. Like, do whatever." So, yeah, I just Mark Valley, he's a great actor. I really like him as an
Hmm.
actor. Very
I'd love to
underrated.
see him as Batman. Like, he would be fantastic.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But, yeah,
yeah,
I like great casting choices, and, uh, Giles from Buffy, Anthony Marquette, yeah, again, like he would be perfect. I could totally see him playing Alfred in this series. It
mm.
just totally would work, and he was great in Doctor Who. I forgot the character he played in
Yeah,
Doctor
he was. I forget what the name of the species is.
Who. Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, he was in the school episode with K9 and Sarah Jane. Like a good episode, not a great episode, but the fact that it's the episode that they came back
Yeah,
makes it sort of it's an important episode just for that.
and that was a David Tennant episode, right?
Yeah, it
I think
was.
yeah. He's still my favorite Doctor. I'm sorry.
He was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Anyway, let's move on because I think there's only 3 pages left. I think one of them's only a half page, but yeah. Interior, Daily Planet. Clark slips back into the Daily Planet unnoticed, stepping up behind Lois. Lois says, "Done. Now let's just hope they catch Darla soon so we can do a follow up and print the article." The headline is Superboy saves plane. She says, "Give this to Perry," and hands it to Jimmy. But then she stops herself and goes back to the computer. Clark says while she was writing, he got a call from a source downtown. The police and Superboy have already caught up with Darla, and Darla seems to genuinely want to turn her life around. Lois says, "Fat chance." Clark says that apparently whatever Superboy said to her really got through, and they'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Lois writes in the article adding the new ending. Clark asks Lois if she wants to grab dinner to discuss the follow up. Lois doesn't hear him. She prints another copy of the article, still with the headline Superboy Saves Plane. She looks at the printed copy one more time before tearing it up once more, saying, "You know what? Screw that." Clark, rubbing the back of his neck, says, "Oh, okay. I thought, never mind. It was just an idea. I'll probably get Chinese food anyway." Lois says, "What?" Still not listening, and changes the headline on a computer. The headline Superboy Saves Plane is being erased, and the new one word headline fills our TV screens as she types the new title. It simply reads Superman. End credits. Post credit scene.
Quick
Yeah, this series has post credit scenes like the CW shows because screw it, why the fuck not? Interior Lex's penthouse, day. Or night, actually. No, I'll make it night because it's more ominous. Lex Luthor is sitting in his penthouse reading the Daily Planet headline. The headline's Superman, clearly seen. Also, obviously, it's like the next evening. Lex is laughing to himself. Superman lands on the balcony outside Lex's apartment. Lex sees him and opens the balcony door using a remote control. Lex, please come in, Superboy. I mean, Superman. Lex, I know what you did. Of course you do, but please, do enlighten me. What specifically did I do? Darla, you betrayed her. Oh, I'm disappointed in you. I would have thought of all the people that you, of all people, would approve. She tried to crash a plane into the city. It was only right that I report her to the police. She only did that because of you. I didn't tell her to do it. I'm not responsible. Keep telling yourself that, Luther. Lex stands up, pours himself a glass of bourbon. I am rehabilitated, Superman. My crimes have been pardoned. That took some doing, I can tell you. But the point is, I'm a different person now. Superman goes to speak, but Lex interrupts. And as such, I must insist that you do not harass me or make baseless accusations. I refuse to be bullied by a Boy Scout. Now please leave. You are no longer welcome in my home. Superman turns and floats above the balcony, speaking once more to Luthor. I know what you are. You haven't changed. Prove it. End.
Wow, that was great. I that last scene very much from Lois and Clark, the last from the pilot.
Mm.
Um
It's different, but at the same time, the spirit is the same.
oh yeah, like you could totally feel that scene is like exactly the I don't want to say exactly the same because Clark and well now Superman uh they have a history with Lex and
Mm.
he knows that he's lying through his teeth and he knows what he is. Whereas Dean Cain Superman didn't know what
He
Lex
knew
was.
that Lex. He knew that Lex was bad because he figured out that Lex
Right,
sabotaged the spaceship thing.
right.
But
They didn't have as much his
nobody else knew what Lex was.
exactly.
There's a lot
Yeah,
more history in this, so I think it. That's it. I tried to keep some of the spirit of it, but
yeah,
covered it in just just absolutely covered it with history, and I think
yeah.
that lends a bit more gravitas to the situation.
And I love the scene before with Lois sitting there with the headline and her ripping it up and going and giving Superboy the Superman title.
Yeah.
I love that
Superboy
because
saves plane isn't a particularly good headline, but if the
yeah,
headline is just
I think
Superman,
yeah, it just
yeah,
sounds better. It's like
yeah,
uh it gives Superboy uh finally the Superman title, which is what
yeah.
he should have had, you know,
He should have had for the past 2 years, really.
past few years. And I love that Lois, very much like Lois and Clark, where, you know, that iconic shot of Superman flying Lois through uh the balcony of the Daily Planet down onto the ramp there and landing her and
Mm,
that music and that moment is just so iconic and such a Superman. It's probably one of the best Superman shots in film or television was
mm.
that moment.
It's a shame that scene isn't in here, but it just didn't quite make sense for it.
It just didn't
Maybe in
organically
a future
work.
episode I'll do it.
Yeah, well, it was just a great moment, and it just and I love that him flying off and her basically naming him, like, in
Mm,
that moment was just such a great moment and such a uh, organic moment because she's just so in awe, like Superman. Like,
Mm,
that just it just worked, and it wasn't comic booky, it just felt like just in the moment, like she was just
yeah.
totally swept off her feet, which is what they say in the next episode. And I love when Clark says to Lois, "It sounds like he made quite the impression on you." Like, just certain
Yeah.
moments like that in Lois and Clark in that first season just exuded Superman and the spirit of the character and the spirit of what they were trying to establish, and I think, like, it just I mean, there's, like, a handful for me, and I'm not a big Lois and Clark fan. I'm more Superboy because that's what I grew
Yeah.
up with. That was
I
my
still
thing.
like Lois and Clark a lot because that was what I
Right,
grew up with, but Superboy is my favorite of the
right.
two,
But there are
especially
certain
seasons 3 and 4.
scenes, and I don't wanna do an analysis of Lois and Clark because 'cause we're here to talk about episode 2 of season 5 of Superboy, but, like, there are certain moments that just give you chills, that is just speak so Superman. And I love the scene with Martha and Superman or Martha and Clark creating the Superman persona, creating that costume, and him
Yeah.
standing there taking the glasses off and the music bellowing up and just playing the iconic Lois and Clark theme. That's just amazing.
Mm.
That's just the character.
It
But
would
like
be pretty cool actually to one day do like a flashback episode that takes place before season 1 that shows them making the costume. Like we could still do that maybe one day.
yeah,
But it would be a bit strange having Gerard play it, so maybe I'd have to tweak it and make it so he had the costume for a lot longer and have the kid, the child Clark from Road to Hell, play the character.
right. I mean, like, I there
Maybe for season 6. Maybe that's the season 6 premiere. We could have flashback sequences starring
well,
that kid.
I love when Martha in the pilot episode of Superboy says, "Are you thinking of becoming Superboy?" Like
Yeah.
like they
They've
had
clearly discussed it before.
yeah, like they had this plan for the longest time, but, like, he was just reluctant on doing it because he
Yeah.
didn't want somebody to recognize him. So,
He
it
had the suit, he had the name, so clearly it was, yeah, it had been discussed plenty. And I think Martha Kent still made the costume for him because he didn't have the Fortress of Solitude, so nobody else would have.
yeah, but yeah, it was, like, I just loved at the end of your episode, like, Lois is the one that named Superman or
Mm,
named Superboy Superman. So, it just worked, and I love the last scene that you incorporated from Lois and Clark, but you built on it more. You added
mm.
more history. So, yeah.
Even Superman the movie, Lois names Superman though. Like after they're flying through the city, like she says, "Superman,
Right.
Superman." We'll move on from that anyway, and just so overall, just what did you think of the episode? Like, what were your highlights? Is there anything you would have done differently? Like,
Um, okay. Well, I really liked that you borrowed from Lois and Clark and you built upon that, certain scenes you built upon, and you added more history to the scene between Lex and Superman, well, Superboy at that time. Um,
mm,
I loved the idea that Lex is named his cat Leo. I just thought that was so funny because, it was just very cold on how Lex just completely, like, cut off Leo and basically killed him off without a shred of decency or shred of, uh, like, he didn't care, you know?
yeah,
So I just
he's a
loved
psychopath, isn't he?
yeah, a total psychopath. But it was just a great, like it was a great callback to Michael Mano's Leo in that, like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna name my cat Leo."
Mm,
So, I love that Darla is kind of on the outs with Lex, and it is was trying to fight to get back with him,
mm.
and
Which is surprising considering what happened the last time her and Lex were together in
yeah,
No Line Enemy.
yeah. Well, I mean, Y y I just think, like, again, it just shows the weird relationship of that she has with Lex and
Mm,
how she's always trying to seek respect and, just a little bit of, you know, "Just pay attention to me, Lex, come on. Look at what I have to do for you just to get you to notice me." to give me a little bit of respect, and that was what she was going for with the Darla Goes Ballistics episode. That
Definitely.
so I like that that's carried forward. I love the reveal that she still has her powers, even though we it was hinted
It
at
was
the end of the
hinted at, but
series.
now it's outright confirmed.
Now it's confirmed that she does have her powers and that she does have control of them, and that Lex uh, contributed to that with the serum. The serum didn't get rid of her powers completely.
Just
So,
stabilized it. Like she's lost some of the extreme intelligence that she had, but
yeah,
she's kept the powers and they've stabilized, so she's not gonna break the earth anymore.
I loved Perry White. I loved that he believes in Clark right from the outset and
Mm,
can see right through Clark and the storylines, the stories that he brought his samples that he brought to Perry, and Perry could see like, yeah, this kid gets it, and I'm gonna give him a shot.
mm,
And I could totally see Lane Smith, Perry White playing it a little bit differently than how he played it on Lois and Clark, but here just believing in Clark more and
mm. Still
uh,
playing the same character, but it's just
just
maybe partly because TJ has obviously told him about it. Plus,
ex-
the
that was the connection.
Superboy comic books, tie-in
Yeah,
comics, are canon, and Perry White met Clark then
yeah,
and gave him some advice. So yeah, maybe I should have referenced that a little bit more. But yeah, the comic book issue where Clark meets Perry White from the Superboy tie-in comics, that's canon. So
yeah,
this isn't the first time they've met; they've met before.
right.
So
And I think having TJ as the link going, and I could totally see Jim Calvert's TJ saying to his father, "Well, there's this great, reporter that I've worked with over the last 2 years, um, or sorry, 1 year. It feels like 2 years,
yeah,
but technically it is 2 years. 2 years that
maybe it's
Clark,
2 years because the tie-in comics still have TJ, even though it
right?
it was a Gerard. Gerard's
Yeah,
on the first issue, yet TJ's in the comics. So I sort
yeah.
of look at that as there's a year missing in the Superboy
That
show.
missing, yeah, exactly, that missing year. But I could totally see TJ going and telling his father about Clark and saying, "Hey, you know what? He's an up and coming reporter. His stories are really, really good. You should really pay attention to him." And then, when Clark leaves Schuster and is traveling the world to get credibility as a writer and then presents all these stories to Perry, like,
Mm,
that's why I think, like, Perry in this episode really has confidence in hiring, like, Clark,
yeah,
because he knows him from TJ, and he
mm,
knows, like, as you said, he has met Clark before and knows Clark's upbringing. He knows, like, Clark, really fights for his stories and stands by his stories and is improving as a writer, like, and I think Perry giving him the shot, to go and interview Lex, and even the history there with Lex going to Schuster, and I just
yeah.
think, like,
You
it
can't ask for a better reporter to go and interview Lex Luthor. Really,
ex exactly,
he
'cause he
literally
knows.
grew up with him.
Yeah, exactly, he knows Lex, and he could tell if Lex is, spinning the story in his favor or really has been rehabilitated, whereas if he gave the story to Lois, Lois doesn't know Lex from a hole in the wall. Yeah, she knows of his reputation, but she doesn't know, is he
Yeah,
really telling me the truth? Is he being authentic in this interview, or is he
mm,
just spinning the wheels? Is he just giving me lies upon lies just to make himself look better in
mm.
the media?
Like, I
So,
don't think Lois would have been fooled by Lex,
r
but the fact that Clark is there, I think,
right,
provoked Lex a little bit more, and he showed a little bit more of his true colors because he knows
yeah,
Clark, and I don't know. Like, one of the first things Lex says to Clark is, "So how's Lana doing?"
exactly, and he
Like,
makes
considering how many times he kidnapped Lana,
he makes the fist under the desk as he's standing there with Lois. I love that. Again, I love how you added so much history into, like, those little scenes between Lex and Clark, or Clark and Perry, and even Superboy and Darla, like, Superboy realizing, like, "You know what, Darla? Like, you've done some really crazy stuff, but you know what? Like, there is you're still redeemable. You're still, somebody that can do some good in this world, even though like you've been fooled left and right by Lex, you know what? You're still a good person at heart. So,
And it's taking Jarell's advice from the fortress at the beginning of the episode, which
mhm,
is the important thing. Like, I want to have more Jarell conversations peppered throughout the show. It won't be in every episode, obviously, but
yeah,
every now and then, I want to open with a Jarell moment where
mhm,
he's telling Clark some history of Krypton, and it's going to relate to the episode. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I loved the Hugo Strange reveal. He was the one that was rehabilitating Lex this entire time, but
Mm. And it's just
uh,
like Hugo Strange to implant something in a person's
exactly,
like brain. Like in this
yeah,
case, he's basically given him Spike from Buffy's like chip.
yeah,
But that's why Lex is being good now, because he literally gets shocked if he doesn't.
yeah. I mean, uh, some things that I would change in the episode, not
Mm.
many. I think I would have loved to have had a moment between Lois and Clark getting to know each other, but again, that's probably because of my, like,
Mm.
Lois and Clark, influence, right off the bat, they're bantering back and forth,
If
placating each
yeah,
other.
this is less
Uh,
of a romantic comedy than Lois and Clark
exa
was, but
exactly.
it's going to take them the longer to fall for each other. But I
Yeah,
wanted Lois, her initial thing, since this is only a 42-minute episode and the pilot for Lois and Clark was an hour and a half,
yeah,
like, basically, it's going to take Lois a while to warm up to Clark.
right.
So, but at the same time, I think she's already. I've also established that she's kind of got the hots for Superman. Like when
Right.
she looks at the picture and she's like biting her lip and smiling. It's just
Yeah.
like she's clearly turned on just looking at him.
But
Yeah, she's
and I
she's treating Clark like shit. Like it's
and
yeah,
I think still in the forefront of Clark's mind is Lana. So, you
yeah.
know, um,
And Lana, obviously, Lana wasn't in this episode, and
yeah, she wasn't.
she probably isn't going to be in the next one. Like she's not a series regular anymore.
Right.
She's probably doing Sequest now.
Right. Stacy's off doing Sequest. We can't
Yeah.
we can't afford it, so,
But at the same time, like she will be back. She'll have like episodes here and there. Like
yeah.
once we get to like Morgan Edge and stuff like that, who's gonna be introduced?
Mhm.
Like Lana's working for Morgan Edge, so obviously we're gonna see her at some point. Uh,
Exactly.
Another
But I
reference that you may have missed actually is
uh-huh.
right when Jimmy Clark asks Jimmy if TJ's there, and Jimmy
Right.
says that he's working on some prank comedy show, writing
Right.
for some prank comedy show.
Mhm.
Uh, that's a little hint that when we're gonna have an episode with TJ at some point this season, and it's gonna be an episode where the villain will be the prankster.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
he starts off on television, and just like in the comics, like he's a TV star who falls from grace and becomes a villain. Because I love the
But the
prankster, and he
yeah,
actually came back in the comics quite recently, and
okay.
it's just a character that I've always loved from the Bronze Age, and
Mhm.
I'd love to see him come back in the comics as a regular villain. And
But
it's going to be a really fun episode, I can tell you. It's going to be so fun just writing his prank, like just his plans and all his pranks and stuff. It's going to be so much fun.
the biggest Easter egg that we haven't talked about was Batman and Alfred.
Yeah.
Like, that was great. That was great. Even though it was, like, a split second, like, it was just, like, if Superboy or Superman arrived in Metropolis, Bruce Wayne would know about it, and he would
Mm.
wanna look into it. So, just
Like
the
Bruce is
idea.
there, and
Yeah,
like he's not even necessarily watching Superboy. He's watching Lex.
yeah,
Like that's probably why he's there when Darla's getting arrested, because he's just like he's following it. He's a detective. Like Batman is going to be a detective in this, just like in the
okay.
comics. It's something that isn't done enough
Yeah. Yeah,
in
it's not.
movies and stuff. The
Right.
detective aspect of Batman is going to be pretty cool to his character in this.
Other than the 1966 Adam West Batman who, like, that was the
Barely a
most
detective
detective
though.
we got. Right? But
Yeah, he's the
still,
most
like,
detective we've got, but he's still barely a
yeah.
detective.
But
How
yeah,
sad is that?
I
I love
really
the
enjoyed
Adam West
that.
Batman though.
Me too, me too. But, I really enjoyed episode 2. I leave a comment down below. Tell us what you think of episode 2.
Mm.
for the Love of Lex. And if you haven't already, please go and subscribe and share on
Give us a
Facebook.
like and all that.
Give
Yeah.
us a like too
Smash
here on
that like button.
smash the like button, please. You know, super punch it if you want to. Come
Mm.
on. So don't forget to like and subscribe and comment below on YouTube and even on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget, like, we're on Twitter and Facebook at Superboy Legacy. So go like and subscribe and share today. So for the Superboy Legacy podcast, I'm Sam Rizzo.
I'm Tom Gallagher.
And thank you for listening.